Hey, so after a bit of fiddling, I finally was able to get my microphone to work. I thought I had it working the whole time. I did not. I'm a dumbass. So have a hair tutorial after forever of not making tutorials. It's gonna be quick, gonna be easy. At least for me, it's really probably not that great of a tutorial, but it's something. So what I started off with is, I'll take a reference photo and I traced the hairline. I also traced the head shape, but I'm mostly paying attention to the hairline and where this person's hair sits on it. I also try to identify the hair not as like single strands, but as big lumps and chunky bits of hair. And I remember watching a video forever ago where he explained that he saw hair like ribbons, and that has been a game changer for me for drawing for God ever since I've seen that. Very successful YouTuber, very successful artist as far as I know. I just do not remember his name, so this is not my idea. This is just what I use. I do not focus on small details. I took out those small details and went and continued with big, broad, chunky bits. I'm not very eloquent. I apologize. Took me a second, but I was looking for another reference photo. This one is of a woman facing straight forward this time. Again, I just sort of traced the hairline. I don't really pay any special attention to the shape of the hair right now. I'm mostly just trying to figure out where the scalp is and where the part is. I don't keep it that straight because hair parts usually aren't that straight. Like even when they are straight, there's usually a little bit of a squiggle. It's just there's some I don't know, some asymmetry to it. Right there I was showing where, or not where, but how hair comes off of the scalp. Unless it's wet or pulled back really tight, it's not going to sit flat on the scalp. It's going to come off of it a bit. How much depends on you. How much depends on the volume of hair you're going for. But that's about it. I continued to separate the pieces of hair into chunks or ribbons. That's basically all I did for this one. It was a very simple hairstyle to do since most of it was pulled back, but because it was pulled back loosely, there was more of, I guess, a shape to find in the pieces. Like it wasn't super tight, like to the head. Doing the same thing here. I went for something shorter and also something from a side view. It's the same exact process every time. You just identify the chunks, separate it, and kind of see if that helps you decipher the way the hair is, how it lays, how it works. You don't have to get it exactly right or anything, because ultimately it's just a study. As long as you understand what you're looking at, that's what's important. It doesn't have to be exact or perfect. But yeah, that's basically all there is to all of this. Finding those shapes and creating them in simple, in a simple kind of way. Like don't fuss over the details. Details come later. And never, God fucking hell, never draw the individual strands. I already had a face I drew pre-made, or prepared, not pre-made. Same thing, I guess, whatever. Because I didn't want to waste your time having to watch me draw that shit. I also do a terrible job with this hairstyle. I don't know why I chose this hairstyle. It was not a good fit, but I'm just trying to, I guess, show that you can work without a reference if you understand how the hair works, like how it lays. Also, a trick for me, usually I try not to have straight, thin hair extend past the ears by much, unless maybe it's bound and poofy at the bottom or something. Like, think Kikyo from Inuyasha or something. Like, her hair isn't thin, but it is fairly straight-ish whenever it's pulled back. I don't know. So I go over it again and fill out a little bit more detail. I try to make it look a little bit better. I end up adjusting it a little bit, like making the hair either bigger or I pull it up a bit so that it's not sitting so low on her head. Because as it is, it just makes her face look really large and her head, like the actual skull, look really small. It's just a very strange combination of features that I didn't like. And here I'm noticing that like the bangs looked a bit wonky, and by seeing that I realized that again the face was too small, so I have to, or too big rather, so I have to shrink or move things a little bit, not remove but move. And here I'm trying it again with a different hairstyle, this time with something shorter. I've got the basic silhouette down for what I want. You notice that I did do a straight part, but it's kind of squiggly. It's not any of that crisscross stuff from the early 2000s or late 90s or whatever, but it's like, it's a little bit squiggly. I have the hair pulled back on the one side in segments and then loose on the other side. And I spent way too long on that. And here I am adding details. Usually whenever I'm actually drawing these things, I don't use separate layers. I typically either draw the segments and then break them up on the same layer, or I just go in and draw the details right off the bat and then cry myself to sleep because I messed up and had to redraw the whole head or something. It's easier to give yourself a little bit of a guide, but I'm stubborn and a dick to myself, so I like to torture myself apparently. And I will be coloring this. I don't spend a whole lot of time on it, and I don't feel like I put an exceptional amount of effort into it either, but it does work to show you my general process for coloring anything, but especially hair, since that's literally what I'm coloring. I'm showing you the difference between those two to show you what it looks like. Had to recolor the simple one though, so it stood out more. My voice is raspy right now, I apologize. Filling it in, nothing special. I usually start with a gray just because it's nice and neutral, and I can see whenever I start adding colors to everything, what I wasn't able to do. I don't like big bright colors like lime green or anything like that. It works really well for some people, but it just hurts my eyes. So I like a lighter gray. Whenever I shade, whether I'm doing it cell or soft, I typically start with blocking in like the darkest parts of those shadows, or where I know that those, I guess where those shadows are gonna be. And then I go over it with like a smudge tool, like a blur tool, not textured and pretty fuzzy, like almost watercolorish, where it melts everything away. And I blur it up real bad and go back and erase bits and add, I draw in little marks, like lines, to make it look a little bit more like hair. Like yeah, like that, like what I did there. It seems a little counterintuitive to go through the effort of shading things only to smudge it and redraw it, but for me it feels good. It feels like it works. So how was your day? Okay, so I'm messing with the layer colors a bit. I added another multiply to give it a little bit more depth, and then an overlay in a darker desaturated purple that I put down on lower opacity, and I do that for everything, but because I'm only drawing the hair, I only paid attention to where it would be on the hair. With shadows, I went for a cooler color than the base color, just a little bit, and for the highlights I went a little warmer. On add glow and with the opacity down a bit, I really just feel around, just whatever looks good. Not too bright, not too dim. And I often add another one where I blur it, or not blur it, but use like an airbrush tool to kind of soften it out a bit. And after textures, that's basically all there is to it. Well, textures and recoloring the line art, but that's not really necessary per se. Yeah, I'm just adding a little bit more depth, and that's it, really. I know it wasn't super informative, but I hope it was somewhat helpful. Just practice. I know that's kind of cliche, but, or not so much cliche as overstated, but it's stated for a reason. Use references, just study people's hair, take pictures of your own hair and mess with it, and have fun. That's it, I guess. Insert outro here.